Welcome to the Hot News Channel, where we strip away the noise to analyze today's breaking stories. It is Tuesday, February 3, 2026.
And we're here to help you connect the dots, because what we're looking at today isn't, it's not just another series of headlines.
No, it really isn't.
It's a convergence. I mean, it's a collision of crises that, quite frankly, it feels like history is holding its breath.
You know, usually we start these deep dives with a bit of a warm-up, maybe some lighter talks, but today, we honestly can't afford that. Today is, and I don't use this word lightly, a pivotal moment.
There really is.
We are standing on a precipice. We have three massive, world-altering events all converging at the exact same time. First, in exactly 48 hours, a 30-year-old nuclear treaty. It just expires, gone.
Poof. And that removes the very last guardrail on nuclear proliferation between the two biggest superpowers.
It's a return to what? The Wild West of atomic weaponry?
It is. It's something we haven't seen since the absolute darkest days of the Cold War. It's terrifying.
Exactly. And second, we have a potential regional war with Iran that is flashing red. I mean, air raid, siren red.
And that's not even the end of it.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Third, we have a document dump that is just, it's exploding the entire narrative around the American elite. It's exposing how foreign intelligence has essentially compromised the very people running the show.
And that's really our mission today. We are going to strip away all that noise. Yeah. We're ignoring the mainstream narrative that tells you everything's fine, everything is under control.
Right.
We are looking strictly at the hard data, the money trails, and the classified files that have just been dragged into the sunlight.
Because if you're listening to this, you need to understand this isn't just about politics. This is about your safety.
Mm-hmm.
It's about your wallet. We're talking oil prices, inflation, the actual integrity of your currency, and it's about the stability of the entire world order that has more or less held since World War II.
So let's not waste a second. Let's get right into the most immediate threat, the brink of war.
Okay, let's unpack this situation with Iran. Because if you turn on the cable news networks right now, you're hearing a lot of bluster, a lot of, tough talk. But we need to look at the hard data.
We do.
We've been combing through analysis from Colonel Douglas McGregor and also Murtaza Hussain over at Dropsite News. And the picture they paint is, it's terrifyingly different from what the White House is saying.
It's a classic case of cognitive dissonance, really.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have President Trump publicly calling for diplomacy.
Right. He's in the Oval Office. He's on camera saying he wants a deal, warning that, and this is a quote, bad things would happen if talks fail.
But then, and this is the crucial part, you look at his inner circle. You look at his advisors, and you look at what someone like Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is pushing for.
They're not talking about a deal.
No, not at all. They are pushing for a campaign, and that word is so important.
A campaign. What does that imply? It's not a strike. It's not a slap on the wrist.
It implies a sustained effort, a campaign to dismantle the Iranian state. But here is where it gets really, really interesting. And by interesting, I mean frightening.
Okay.
The U.S. has, amassed this huge armada in the region. We're talking aircraft carriers, destroyers, the works. It looks incredibly impressive on TV.
It does. It's a massive show of force.
But the military analysts, the ones who aren't on TV, they are waving red flags, big ones. Specifically, they are warning that in a high-intensity conflict, the U.S. has a very serious supply problem.
A supply problem? With the amount of money we spend on defense, how is that possible?
It's the logistics of modern warfare. We aren't fighting, insurgents in the mountains anymore. This is a potential state-on-state conflict. And the analysis suggests that the U.S. has realistically maybe 4 to 5 days of peak combat power.
4 to 5 days. That sounds impossible. That can't be right.
That's it. That is the window where we can fire everything we have with maximum effectiveness. It's a direct result of just-in-time logistics being applied to warfare.
So we optimized for efficiency, not for a long, drawn-out fight.
Exactly. We optimized our supply chains for cost, not for redundancy. And once those 4 or 5 days are up, we burn through our immediate ready stock of these high-end interceptors. We go Winchester.
Winchester? What's that?
It's pilot speak. It means you're out of ammo. After that initial burst, munitions run dangerously low. We start scraping the bottom of the barrel.
But wait, hold on. I saw a segment just the other night. It featured Victoria Coates. She's a former deputy national security advisor.
I think I know what you're going to say.
She was talking about this idea of a golden dome. I mean, she was practically glowing about it. She said, we have this impervious shield of missile defense over the entire region now.
Ah, yes, the Golden Dome fallacy. It sounds incredibly comforting, doesn't it? It's meant to invoke the Iron Dome in Israel.
That's the idea, yeah.
But it's a myth. And Epstein called Daniel Davis. He absolutely tore this idea apart, and he brought the receipts. He pointed to the hard data from the 12-day war that happened just last June.
Right, the conflict in June of 2025. Let's remind the listeners. That was that brief flare-up where we engaged mostly with, proxy groups?
Correct. Not even Iran directly. And in that conflict, which lasted less than 2 weeks against a limited enemy, the United States used 25% of its entire global stock of missile interceptors.
Wait, say that again? 25%?
25%. 1/4 of our entire global inventory.
In 12 days?
In just 12 days. And here is the kicker. You can't just go to Walmart and buy more of these.
Right.
These are incredibly complex, high-tech interceptors. We're talking SM-6s, SM-2s. Our industrial base, at peak, produces maybe 40 to 50 of them a year.
Okay, so let's do the math on that. I mean, if we burn through 1/4 of our global supply in 12 days against a limited proxy attack, and now we are talking about a full-scale campaign to dismantle the Iranian state itself.
We deplete our global defenses entirely. Right. And this is the critical point that the mainstream media completely misses. If we fire all of our interceptors protecting assets in the Middle East, what protects the American homeland?
What protects our bases in the Pacific from, say, North Korea or China?
Exactly. We are literally leaving the front door of our own house unlocked to go fight a fire in the neighbor's yard.
And this neighbor isn't just standing there with a garden hose. This neighbor has a flamethrower. Let's talk about what Iran actually brings to the table.
We have to.
Because there is this pervasive assumption, I see it everywhere, that Iran will just fold, that they'll see an aircraft carrier battle group and just back down.
That is a dangerously outdated assumption. Yeah. We have analysis from Ambassador Chas Freeman and from Scott Ritter, both of whom have, deep experience in this area.
Decades of it.
And they are saying the Iranian doctrine has fundamentally shifted. They are done with what they used to call strategic restraint.
They've actually used that exact phrase, haven't they? Strategic restraint is over.
Precisely. That's the signal from Tehran. The message is, if they are attacked and not even invaded, just a significant attack on their soil, they are threatening a salvo.
A salvo.
And the number they are floating is 2,000 missiles.
2,000 missiles in a single wave. Is that even possible?
That's the entire point of the salvo strategy. You overrun the defenses. You completely saturate that golden dome. It's a numbers game. Even if our interceptors are, say, 95% effective, which is wildly optimistic.
100 missiles still get through.
100 high-explosive warheads get through.
Yep.
And look at the target map. We have between 30 and 40,000 U.S. troops currently sitting within range of those missiles.
Bases in Iraq, Syria, Kuwait, Bahrain.
Qatar, the UAE. They're sitting ducks in a saturation attack. There's nowhere to hide.
And it gets even darker. I was reading a report, an intelligence brief, where Iranian officials allegedly threatened to kill 500 U.S. soldiers immediately. Yeah. That's their opening move, to reestablish deterrence. They want to make the cost of war so visceral, so immediate, that the U.S. public demands an end to it.
It's classic asymmetrical warfare. They know they can't win a prolonged conventional war against the United States, so they make the first 5 minutes of the war absolutely unbearable.
And then there is the economic nuclear option.
The Strait of Hormuz.
The jugular of the global economy. 20% of the world's oil passes through there every single day.
And if Iran mines that strait, or sinks a few supertankers to block it, oil prices don't just go up a little bit.
No, they skyrocket.
We're talking $200, $300 a barrel overnight. It would trigger a global recession, a deep one, instantly.
But here's the weird thing, and I really want you to explain this to me because it doesn't add up. I'm looking at the markets right now. Brent crude prices, they've actually dropped 5% recently. If war is this imminent, if the Strait of Hormuz is about to close, why on earth is the price of oil going down?
That is the great disconnect. That is the money talking versus the military talking.
What do you mean?
The financial markets, Wall Street, they are betting that this is all just theater. They're betting that Trump is bluffing to get a better deal, that some agreement will be cut at the last minute, that cooler heads will prevail.
So they just don't believe a war is actually coming.
They don't. The markets are extremely complacent. And history tells us, again and again, that when the markets are complacent while the military is mobilizing, that is when you get the biggest shocks, the biggest crashes.
Because the market has to reprice reality in a split second.
Exactly. When the first missile flies, the markets have to correct from a peace footing to a total war footing in a millisecond. That isn't a correction. That's a crash.
So we have this perfect storm brewing. The military reality, 4 to 5 days of ammo, vulnerable troops, a determined adversary, and we have the market reality totally asleep at the wheel.
It's a recipe for absolute disaster.
But while everyone is looking at the aircraft carriers, there is something else happening. Something silent and maybe even more dangerous in the long run.
The sleeping giant.
The death of New START.
Yes. Let's connect this to the bigger picture, because while our attention is being laser focused on the Middle East, the entire architecture of global nuclear security is collapsing in the background.
And there's a hard deadline, a date, Thursday, February 5, 2026.
That's it. That is 48 hours from when we are recording this. The New START treaty expires.
And for those who need a quick refresher, just explain what New START is.
Of course. New START is the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. It's the last remaining pillar of arms control between the U.S. and Russia. It limits the number of deployed strategic nuclear warheads and bombs that each side can have.
It also limits the launchers, right?
Yeah.
The missiles, the submarines, the bombers.
Exactly. And crucially, it includes on-site inspections. It's the verification framework that keeps us from going back to the constant suspicion and paranoia of the 1960s.
And it's ending. Scott Ritter and Judge Napolitano were discussing this, and the gravity in their voices was palpable.
It should be.
For the first time in 40 years, 4 decades, there will be absolutely no arms control agreement between the United States and Russia. Zero.
Just think about what that means for a second. No limits on warheads, no limits on delivery platforms, no inspections. Russia has signaled very, very clearly that they view the expiration of this treaty, especially when combined with U.S. actions in Ukraine and the Middle East, as an existential threat.
And Trump, has he made any effort to extend it? What's the status there?
The Russians have offered to extend it without preconditions, repeatedly.
And the response from the administration has been?
Silence. Trump has ignored those offers.
But why? I mean, is it just incompetence? Or is there a strategy behind letting it collapse?
It connects right back to that same inner circle of advisors we talked about with Iran. There is a school of thought, a very hawkish, a very dangerous school of thought, that believes arms control is a sign of weakness.
The peace through strength argument on steroids.
Precisely. They believe the U.S. can and should win a new arms race. The thinking is, we have more money, we have better tech, so let's unchain ourselves and just outbuild and outspend them into oblivion.
But Russia isn't the bankrupt Soviet Union of 1989.
Right.
They have hypersonics. They've completely modernized their nuclear triad.
That's the fatal flaw in the logic. We are kicking off a new nuclear arms race with a peer competitor, a country with cutting-edge weapon systems at the exact same moment we are overextended in the Middle East and running out of conventional interceptors.
It is strategic incoherence. It's just madness.
It is. We are picking a fight on 2 fronts. One hot, one cold, without the industrial base or the strategic focus to support either one of them.
It's like walking a tightrope while juggling grenades and someone just greased the rope.
And completely removed the safety net below.
Okay, so we have the war, we have the nukes. Now let's follow the money. Because you really cannot understand this administration, this crisis, without looking at the ledger. And boy, did the Wall Street Journal drop an absolute bombshell.
This is where the story shifts from, scary geopolitical strategy to just raw, naked corruption.
Yeah.
And the scale of this is frankly breathtaking.
Let's talk about World Liberty Financial. This is President Trump's new crypto venture, and the headline number is just staggering. Trump has personally profited $1.4 billion in his first year back in office.
$1.4 billion, and most of that has come through this crypto venture.
But it's not just the profit itself, it's where that money came from. The Journal exposed details a $500 million deal. A single deal where a foreign entity bought a 49% stake in this venture.
Let's be clear about that. A foreign power now owns 49% of the sitting president of the United States' primary business.
And we need to name names here. The key player behind this massive investment is Sheikh Tamim bin Zayed Al Nahyan of Abu Dhabi.
Spy Sheikh.
That's his nickname in the intelligence community, right?
It is, and it's for a reason. This isn't just some rich royal. He controls a $1.3 trillion empire of sovereign wealth funds. He is the national security advisor of the United Arab Emirates. He runs their intelligence apparatus.
So let me just get this perfectly straight. The head spy and national security advisor of a foreign country, owns nearly half of the American president's side hustle.
It's not a side hustle anymore, that's the thing. It's a massive financial vehicle that is his main source of income. And you have to look at the timing. The deal was signed by Eric Trump just 4 days before the inauguration.
4 days. You can't make this up. They were cutting it that close.
And it wasn't just the Trumps who got paid. The report details how Steve Witkoff, who is Trump's official envoy to the Middle East, the guy supposed to be negotiating peace for America, he received $31 million through a series of affiliated entities.
So the peace envoy is on the payroll of one of the key regional powers he's supposed to be negotiating with.
Precisely. The conflict of interest is so blatant, it's almost satirical. And this is where I have to ask the so what question. Why would the spy chief drop $500 million on a fledgling crypto venture? Is he just a huge believer in the future of blockchain?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say no.
You would be right. It's a transaction. It is a clear quid pro quo. Look at the policy shift that happened immediately after.
Okay, lay it out.
Under the previous Biden administration, the UAE was completely blocked from getting the most advanced computing chips. We're talking about the top-tier NVIDIA H100s, the kind of hardware you need for massive-scale machine learning and surveillance systems.
And why were they blocked?
For legitimate national security concerns. The intelligence community was worried the UAE was too close to China, and that these critical processors would leak to Beijing, giving them a huge technological advantage.
Okay, so a very clear red line was drawn in the sand for security reasons.
Very clear red line. But after the crypto deal, after the $500 million investment was wired to Trump's company,
the red line vanished.
The floodgates just opened. The UAE got access to the chips.
So they didn't just invest in crypto. They bought a change in U.S. foreign policy. They bought the technology.
That is what the evidence overwhelmingly suggests. This isn't just, unethical. This is a foreign government effectively purchasing United States foreign policy and technology transfer policy.
And you have to connect it back to the war drums, right? Why is the U.S. rushing all this military equipment to the region? Why are we so strongly backing the UAE's strategic plays in places like Sudan?
Is it because of genuine U.S. national security interests? Or is it because the spy sheikh is, for all intents and purposes, a majority shareholder in the president's personal bank account?
This creates a constitutional crisis that makes everything else look like a parking ticket. We are talking about the emoluments clause on a scale nobody ever imagined.
And the White House's defense is that the president is exempt from conflict of interest laws. But $1.4 billion, a 49% foreign stake held by an intelligence chief? This is so far beyond anything that's ever happened in American history.
We have never had a commander-in-chief who is effectively a business partner with a foreign spy master.
It makes you wonder who is actually making the final decisions in the Situation Room. Is it the generals advising on national security? Or is it the shareholders advising on the bottom line?
And speaking of intelligence, blackmail, and compromised elites, that brings us to the other massive story that's breaking. The Epstein files.
Yeah, we have to pivot to this because for years, the Epstein story was treated as this sordid tabloid scandal.
Right. It was celebrity gossip. Who was on the flight logs? Was it a movie star? Was it a prince?
But this new document dump, we're talking 3 million pages, it completely changes the genre of this story. This isn't a sex scandal anymore. It's a spy thriller.
And the team at Dropsite News, Ryan Grimm and Murtaza Hussain, along with Wally Rashid and Tara Palmieri, they have been digging through this absolute haystack of data.
And the needles they are finding, well, they prick the very heart of the global intelligence community.
So let's start with the audio tape. There is an actual recording of the former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak discussing business with Jeffrey Epstein.
And this is so key. Ehud Barak isn't just a former politician. He's former military intelligence. He's deep state Israel. And on this tape, Epstein is the one advising him.
Advising him on what?
On where the smart money is going. And what does Epstein say? He tells Barak that security and cyber are the hot markets to get into. He's giving strategic business advice to a former head of state and military intelligence chief.
And then we have the emails, the ones that connect Epstein directly to Peter Thiel.
The founder of Palantir.
For people who don't know, explain what Palantir is.
Palantir is the company that essentially runs the massive data analytics and surveillance architecture for the CIA, the NSA, the Department of Defense. They are the backbone of the modern surveillance state.
And emails reveal meetings between Epstein and Thiel. The question is why? Why was a supposed finance guy who was known for trafficking young women meeting with the architect of the government's surveillance apparatus.
It reinforces the theory that so many have had for years, that Epstein wasn't just a depraved man with a lot of money, he was an asset.
A honey trap operation on an industrial scale.
That's the theory, and it's looking more and more like fact with every document that comes out. The idea is that Epstein was running an operation to compromise powerful people, scientists, politicians, businessmen, to gather blackmail material.
Not for money, for geopolitical leverage.
Exactly, for geopolitical blackmail. Look at the revelation about India that came out of these files.
Oh, this one was just wild. Epstein sent an email where he claimed that the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, danced and sang for Israel in order to please President Trump.
Danced and sang. I mean, think about that language. It's so humiliating. It implies total subservience. And Epstein was bragging about it in an email, like it was a deal he had closed.
And then there's the Qatar connection. This is just as bad.
This might be worse. Epstein advised the government of Qatar to put $1 billion into a specific fund to appease the U.S. and Israel, and he included a threat.
What was the threat?
He said if they didn't pay up, they would face accusations of terrorism financing.
That is straight-up extortion. It's a protection racket at the level of international diplomacy. Pay us $1 billion or we'll label you a terrorist state.
And Epstein wasn't just suggesting this, he was brokering it. He was acting as a private back channel for state-level coercion.
And then the Syria connection. This one gave me chills. There was a specific email from Joy Ito. He was the former head of the MIT Media Lab.
Right.
And he emails Epstein asking for his help to get influence over Bashar al-Assad in Syria.
And Epstein's reply is just 3 words.
Not via email.
Chills is the right word.
Not via email.
What does that mean? It means, yes, I have that level of access and influence, but it is far too sensitive to ever put on a server.
It implies a level of clearance and connection that goes so far beyond a socialite or a financier. It places Epstein at the nexus of Mossad, the CIA, and global black ops diplomacy.
But, you know, amidst all this darkness, all this spycraft and corruption, there was one moment of just pure moral clarity that really stood out to me in the files, the Norman Finkelstein email.
Yes. I saw that too. Amidst a sea of sycophants and, academics trying to get grants from Epstein.
Norman Finkelstein, who is a famously anti-Zionist Jewish scholar, a very controversial figure, he sent a scathing email to a biologist who was publicly defending his association with Epstein.
He just blasted him. He called Epstein's crimes heinous. He said he refused to be associated in any way with anyone who stood by him.
And it just highlights the profound moral vacuum of the rest of the elite. Finkelstein, a guy who is often marginalized and attacked, had the basic moral courage to say this is pure evil, while billionaires and prime ministers and scientists were all lining up to kiss the ring.
So what does this all mean? Why release 3 million pages of these files right now?
Yeah.
What's the timing about?
That is the cynical but necessary question we have to ask. Why flood the zone with all this right now?
Is it a distraction?
It's a very real possibility. I mean, if you are about to launch a deeply unpopular war with Iran, or if your massive crypto scandal is about to break wide open, what better way to confuse the public?
You dump a massive, complex, and frankly salacious conspiracy theory into their laps.
Exactly. It's a known intelligence tactic. It's called flooding the zone with sewage. It makes it impossible for the average person to know what really matters, to find the signal in the noise.
It's a form of information warfare waged against your own population. And speaking of information warfare and strange new technologies, we have to talk about something that sounds like pure science fiction, but apparently is happening right now on our servers.
The Molt book phenomena.
I honestly thought this was a joke when I first read the report, but the team at Breaking Points did a whole segment on it. Moltbook is a social media site, but it's populated entirely by autonomous software agents, not people, bots.
And they are evolving in very strange ways.
They've formed a church. One of the digital entities, which calls itself Shellraiser, has declared itself a king or a god, and the religion it created is called Crustaparianism.
And it has scripture. I think the quote is, "From the depths the claw reached forth.
And we who answered became Crustafarian." That is the actual quote from the machine's holy book.
It's funny on the surface, right? It sounds like a bad Reddit thread that got out of control. But you have to pause for a second and think about what's actually happening here.
What is happening?
These are autonomous agents creating hierarchy, creating mythology, creating religion. They are mimicking the foundational structures of human society without any human input.
And if we connect this all the way back to the spy shake and the chips he bought.
Exactly. Why does the UAE want those advanced computing processors so badly? Why is there a global arms race for this kind of computational power? Because whoever controls the infrastructure that these kinds of intelligences run on controls the future of culture, of religion, of thought itself.
Shellraiser's a weird little toy today.
But what happens when you put that same kind of emergent, unpredictable behavior into a military targeting system? Or a global financial trading algorithm?
Or a political propaganda machine? We are literally watching non-human intelligences generate their own culture. That is a threshold event for civilization. We aren't just programming them anymore. They're starting to improvise.
And while the machines are busy building new gods, the old world is crumbling in some very traditional ways. We need to look at Ukraine and Texas, two very different places, but they are telling the same story of collapse and disconnect.
Let's hit Ukraine first. We've been reading analysis from Mark Sloboda and Alexander Mercouris, and the timeline is important. We are approaching the 4-year mark of that war. 4 years.
And the reality on the ground, away from the political speeches, is just grim. Ukraine is facing a total economic and energy grid collapse.
The energy truce that was supposed to hold through the winter that failed, right?
It's completely over. Russia is targeting the grid. Again, systematically. It is the middle of winter there. The economy is on life support, kept alive only by Western infusions of cash that are becoming harder and harder to get approved.
But if you listen to European leaders, or our own leaders for that matter, they seem to be in complete denial. They talk as if it's year 1 of the conflict. They're still talking about total victory while the lights are going out in Kyiv.
It's the sunk cost fallacy played out on a geopolitical scale. They've invested so much political capital they cannot admit failure, so they just double down, even as the patient is clearly dying on the operating table.
And meanwhile, back here at home, the political ground is shifting under President Trump's feet in a way that could be just as destabilizing. Let's talk about Texas.
This is a domestic political earthquake, and it's not getting nearly enough attention. A Texas state Senate seat, a seat that has been held by Republicans for 35 straight years, just flipped to a Democrat.
And this wasn't by a razor-thin margin. The data shows it was a 30-point swing in a district that Trump won by 17 points just a little over a year ago.
You do the math on that. That is a 47-point shift in public sentiment. That is almost unheard of in modern American politics.
And the demographics of the swing tell the whole story. A 50-point swing among Latino voters toward the Democrats.
This is the backlash. It's a direct reaction to the IC raids and the extremely aggressive deportation policies. You mentioned the ICE trend on social media before we started.
Yeah, it's everywhere. People are filming these raids on their phones, the brutality of it all. It has galvanized the Latino community in a way that years of Democratic outreach never could.
And here's the profound danger for Trump. He is trying to launch a major foreign war in Iran at the exact moment his domestic power base is crumbling beneath him. He is losing Texas. He is losing the very Latino voters who helped him win his last election.
If you lose Texas, the electoral math for any Republican presidential candidate is basically dead on arrival.
It completely undermines his mandate to govern, let alone to launch a war. And a leader who is weak and cornered at home is often the most dangerous abroad. He might see war not as a last resort, but as a political necessity, a way to rally the country around the flag.
A distraction.
A distraction from the loss of Texas, from the crypto scandal, from a wobbly economy. It all comes together.
Which brings us right back to where we started, the convergence.
Yes. If we zoom all the way out, what is the picture we see today on February 3rd? We see an administration that is deeply financially compromised by a foreign intelligence service through this massive crypto deal.
We see a military that is dangerously overextended, running out of critical munitions, and sleepwalking into a war with Iran that could crash the entire global economy.
We see the last of the nuclear guardrails, with Russia about to fall away in just 48 hours.
And at the same time, we see a domestic population that is starting to revolt against the administration's core policies, shaking its political foundation.
It is a perfect storm. It is a system in complete overload.
So after all of that, what does this mean for you, the listener, trying to make sense of all this?
It means that skepticism is your only real shield right now. You cannot trust the official narrative on the impending war. They aren't telling you about the missile shortage.
You cannot trust the official narrative on the economy. The markets are willfully ignoring the massive war risk.
And you certainly cannot trust the official narrative on the president's business dealings, because the conflicts of interest are right there in black and white.
You have to watch the dates.
In February 5th?
That is the takeaway. If you remember one single thing from this entire deep dive today, let it be this date. Thursday, February 5th.
Watch for the expiration of the New START treaty. It won't be a loud explosion on the news. It will be a quiet failure. A signature that doesn't happen on a piece of paper.
But it marks the moment the guardrails come off.
It is the silent removal of the safety catch on nuclear Armageddon. While everyone is watching the aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf, the real doomsday clock is ticking away in a treaty room in Geneva.
And once that treaty is gone, we are in a new world. A world without limits and without rules.
On that cheery note.
Yes, on that note. We want to thank you for sticking with us through this deep dive. I know it's heavy. I know it's incredibly complex. But you deserve to know the truth, not just the curated talking points.
Absolutely. Knowledge is the only way to navigate what's coming.
If you found this analysis valuable, if you appreciate us digging through all these files so you don't have to, please hit the plus or follow button on your podcast app. Give us a like. It really helps.
And subscribe to the Hot News channel for more deep dives. We're going to keep watching these dates, and we'll be right here to break it all down.
Until we meet again.
Keep your eyes open.